Suncoast Pinball files for Chapter 11. Elvira's House of Horrors revealed. Ghostbusters gets its long-awaited update.
Hi, my name is Joosten and welcome to the Pinball Magazine and Pinball News monthly pinball industry news update. And with me is...
I'm Martin Ayub, and together we will be looking back at the wonderful month of September 2019.
Right.
And there's no exaggeration to say it was an action-packed month.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. A very exciting month. Although not everything can be considered a highlight, I guess. But okay, it's pinballs. You have ups and downs, apparently.
Absolutely, that's the nature of the business. Yeah, not everyone's going to be a runaway success. And I guess we should probably dive straight into our first story then for September. And I guess it's kind of starting on some sad news, really, with the fortunes of a startup company based in Florida.
Right, Suncoast Pinball.
That would be, indeed.
Yeah, being a sort of a division, I would say, of the Suncoast Arcade. And
Suncoast Arcade who make video games and cabinets.
Yes, and so they decided to get into the pinball business as well. Their first game was Cosmic Carnival, which had very cool art by Dirty Donny.
Indeed.
And
yeah.
Interestingly, when the game was first, I guess, revealed, it wasn't revealed at Texas. It was already shown at the Joosten Arcade Expo prior to that as a Whitewood. But the game with artwork was at the Texas Pinball Festival, but in sort of a demo mode, which actually didn't go very well with the public, if I may say, because usually when there's a new game, there's a line of people playing it. And here, that line quickly vanished, so to speak, because you couldn't actually play a game. You just pressed the start button and you got a single ball. You could flip it around, but there was no scoring and whatsoever. And that was all that was in that demonstration mode that they had at the time. But I guess that gave people already the feel like there's not much to this game.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't. I don't think it's a very good way of presenting a new game, because you get none of the feel, you get none of the sort of feedback from making the shots. You don't get any sound effects or light effects or anything in the way of inserts or flashes or anything making it into a fun shot to make. And to be honest, the ramps weren't exactly fun in the first place. They were just, the left ramp fed back to the right. No, the left flipper and the right ramp fed back to the right.
Right.
So you could just do figure of eight shots all day long.
And and you couldn't get. It was very difficult to get back all the way up to the top once you went through the top rollover lanes, and there was basically no getting back up there.
Yes. Although that was addressed a little bit later on with I think it was a lane that fed back to the shooter lane. So you could get the ball back to the shooter and then launch it back to the rollers. But it's not. Yeah, it's not really much of a solution.
Right.
Is it?
And then the ramps changed. So because they listened to feedback and they figured that they needed to change the ramps. I think the outcome was still the same, but they looked more interesting, and they were less blocking the playfield. And then I think it was like 2 months ago that we reported that the estimated production of 250 units was adjusted and would now be only 100 units, which to me already was an indication that sales weren't that great. Because if you have a good seller on your hands, why would you reduce the numbers? This could be more like an attempt to get your hands on something more exclusive, maybe. But I'm afraid we're not even going to see 100 units because, like you said, the company filed for Chapter 11. Now, you did your homework on that, so can you talk to...
Absolutely.
Tell us what you found out.
Okay, well, looking at the court filings, there were... Suncoast originally started with one unit, when it was the arcade business, and expanded into the unit next door. They were in, I think they were in 204, no, in 202 and expanded to 204, which is next door. And that was around the time they started their pinball production, so I guess that was really for the pinball side of things. And then just recently there was some papers filed suing Suncoast Arcade, which is, I guess, I'd describe them as sort of like the sister company, or it's probably like the parent company or the holding company for Suncoast Arcade and Pinball. But they were basically being sued for back rent on both of those units. The sum was $7,176 for each of those two.
Which is not a ridiculous amount. I mean,
it's not a huge amount. No, it's it's 14. Basically 14,500 total, which for a company, that's solvent and has good turnover, that's not a huge amount, and could easily be arranged, you'd think.
Well, it's like the price of 3 pinball machines.
Yeah, well, we don't know how easy they were to sell, do we?
Right.
But yeah, so the wrinkle there was that the owner of Suncoast, John Weaver, had personally guaranteed the rent, and it was therefore he was being sued as the guarantor for that. But not only for that back rent, but also for future rent, on the basis that if the company went out of business, then that would be loss of earnings to the landlord. So he was being sued for more than 15. The exact figure is not declared. It was more than $15,000 for each of the units. So that pushes it up to above 30,000.
Right.
And that was also legal fees as well, taking into account of that. So that was when was that? Just over a week ago, I guess. That was all became public, and at that point, the company did file for Chapter 11, which Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which gives them protection against the people they owe money to, and gives them the opportunity to try and restructure the business such that they can either try and make it into a profitable business, or sell off some parts, or one alternative is just close the whole thing down and just liquidate what they have and pay their creditors pennies on the dollar, effectively.
Right. Okay.
But it looks like the pinball operation is done. They're closing that down. There were people who were laid off at that point. No more pinball manufacturing was taking place. It's thought that they might be able to make the arcade business profitable and carry on that basis, and maybe take it back down to one unit and focus all their efforts on doing the arcade stuff, which was basically their core business to start with, and the pinball, and sort of forget about the pinball as a venture, which didn't really work out, and that would mean that some people who had bought games or had paid for games wouldn't actually get them. We understand that the numbers on that are low, around about 4 people. But and there are parts still for various games. There are playfields and playfield components and cabinets. So it's possible that those games could be built still, and then they might get them. But it's not looking too positive for that.
No.
So there might be some people who lose money there, at least some.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You spotted this, that the arcade side actually announced a new product just around the time that the pinball division was being shut down.
Yeah, that was like 4 days ago. I think September 26th, which was after they went into Chapter 11. So the Suncoast arcade side is still apparently developing and releasing new products. So,
well, Suncoast Arcade still exists as a website. Suncoast Pinball doesn't. Suncoast Arcade has a Facebook presence. Facebook. Arcade has a Facebook presence, and the pinball side doesn't have a Facebook account anymore. That's been closed by the looks of it. It seems to have vanished. So it looks like that's definitely what they're planning to do, to keep the arcade side going and close and forget completely about the whole pinball venture.
Right.
Which is a shame, because they had been talking about games 2 and 3 and the plans they had for those. No details.
Yeah, and I think Dirty Donny had a deal with them for at least 3 games, or 3 more games even, something like that. So he might be looking for other work, I would say. I'm not sure whether he got paid up front for all 3 titles, or whether that was to be done by the time that he would submit the artwork, and maybe already did, I don't know. But it's a pity. It could have been interesting.
Yeah, it's a sanitary lesson, because you would have thought they were a reasonably well-funded startup, having a successful arcade company behind them, should be able to see them through, the first couple of games. But they went about things in a very different way. They didn't really, apart from Donny, they didn't really bring in any sort of well-known pinball people or pinball expertise that we're aware of into their manufacturing and design of the game. So when it was released, it was kind of somewhat lackluster in terms of the reception it received, and I think that obviously followed through in sales. And but I honestly thought they'd last a bit longer. But I guess there were other issues as well in the company that meant they didn't have the free cash flow that they needed in order to continue manufacturing and developing of their future titles.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's all there is to say about this. It's a pity, but oh well.
It is. I feel sorry the people who are working on the business down there in Florida.
Or the people who the 4 people that still have a game on order.
Yeah. Okay. So on to happier news then.
Yeah, sort of, I guess. I guess we're going to Stern Pinball, basically teasing, announcing, revealing, and then streaming Elvira's House of Horrors. Which I really have to be careful how to pronounce it, because you might really hear something different.
Yes, the third game in the Elvira series, after Elvira and Party Monsters and then Scared Stiff. And it picks up a lot of themes from those 2 games, as well as Elvira's TV appearances as well.
Right. So we have a very colorful playfield design by Dennis Nordman, who designed the previous 2 Elvira games, with artwork by Greg Ferris. And
they were working together as Whiz-Bang Studios, as they did on some earlier games, including the Woe Nelly being Big Juicy Melons game being their first studio title. I guess. Which
was also picked up by Stern Pinball. So, and of course, with Greg Ferris being art director at Stern Pinball, it's not that strange that Stern would be picking up titles from Whiz-Bang. Although this is a game with quite a bit of a history. I think this is a game that has been in the making for at least 6 years or so.
There's been several ongoing attempts to actually make it happen, and it was announced. Just over, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago at Texas?
Texas 2016.
Yes. Okay. So over 3 years ago.
No.
I think it was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago it was announced. But even at that point, I think all the work had been done on it pretty much as far as the design goes.
And the way I understood it, when the game was announced, the rumor has it that there was already a flipping whiteboard in Greg's office, and that Dennis's work on that game was done. And since the story as I understood it, Dennis handed in the playfield design, and Stern needed to figure out the mechanics and so on, but they weren't paying him anymore to work on the game, which is why he when he got an offer from Deeproot, that was an easy choice, I guess, for him, to say like, hey, these guys are willing to pay me to design more games for them. I have no obligations to Stern, so off he went, and you can't blame him for that. But it does make it a bit more complicated, because at the same time, the game, although the playfield design was finished in, I guess, Dennis's eyes, Stern still had to continue that project without being able to contact Dennis for input if they needed him. And Greg probably didn't have the back and forth banter with Dennis that he had in terms of artwork discussions and what have you, game rules and such. So the game
it's a very strange situation, really.
Yeah, so the game was further developed, or finished, so to speak, at Stern Pinball. And I don't want to make a harsh comment, but it looks like they might still be working on it for quite some time. Based on the fact that, I think we've seen a very interesting curve of development, I would almost say, in how people responded. I mean, we have a situation where, first of all, there was a video teaser where the game was announced to be coming soon, which was actually a part of the video that you actually see on the screen in the game. That was nice. So there was a deadhead family crypt, so the deadheads would be returning. There was a house with I think it was a very good teaser. So I think 2-3 days later after that teaser, blurry images of cabinet art, the game's positioned in a 3/4 way, I think it's called, leaked, and a blurry picture of the playfield. I don't get how these pictures get so blurry, because why would anybody store them in such a low res on his computer and then leak them, unless the plan is to leak them in the first place? But based on those blurry pictures, I'd say the online response was rather negative, I would say. Then we get the official reveal of photos of the game. Everybody's praising how great the game is, how good it looks. Yes, you could look at it as a cross between Medieval Madness and Scat Stiff elements, making it a sort of Scat Stiff on steroids, I would say. And then we get the reveal stream, where people actually see the game being played for 2 hours, and it turns out that the code is far from being completed, and that turned down a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it was I think I mentioned the lackluster as a term when talking about Suncoast, and I think that it applies to the response to the live stream that was on the Deadflip Twitch channel.
Right.
I'm sure everybody was wanted to present it in the best possible light, but it did seem sort of quite low energy as a presentation, and there was a lot that wasn't shown, and I don't think it benefited from showing the same mode start, because the way it played, you played through each of the movies, but it always started with the same movie.
Yes,
every time you played it.
That was intentionally done for this stream. Was explained by
absolutely, yeah,
Jack Danger. So they normally you would be able to select different modes based on how you play the game, but for the stream, the modes were all in the same order. As goes for the
which made it quite repetitive, but also you had to wonder whether that's because there aren't that many modes actually coded, so they couldn't show more than 3 or 4 of them, because that's all that's actually in the code so far.
Right,
No, we were commenting that there's a severe lack of call-outs and effects within the game, humour as well for a start.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but thanks for mentioning that, because I think the game was basically lacking most of the fun and double entendres that people are expecting from this type of game.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a huge number of more call-outs put into the game later on once they've had a chance to really get to work on it. But it was an early version of the code. There's no question about it.
Right.
And it's, as we've seen before with other games, you show games too early, you're liable not to get the reaction that you are maybe hoping for.
Yeah. So we might be looking at another a Batman 66 scenario where although this game has more code than when Batman 66 was revealed, because when that was revealed, you couldn't even play the game. All it had was an attract mode.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it does strike me as a rather strange way of marketing the game, because, going back to what we were talking about before, the leak or plant, however you want to view it, of the low resolution pictures. They went out there, and then Stern appeared to be going around trying to get people to take them down. There was people were getting emails from Stern saying, "Take these pictures off the website, please." And you and I didn't publish them because we knew that they weren't legitimately obtained, shall we say?
Well, that wasn't the main reason for me not to publish them. There was nothing to see on them. That was basically.
Well, there was something you could see artwork, and it wasn't presenting the game in the best light, that's for sure. And there were more questions than there were answers about how the game would work. So I don't think it helped Stern. But the same kind of thing happened with the Jurassic Park. There were leaked pictures before the official reveal.
Yeah.
In that case, I think some of them came from the distributor presentation.
Yes.
But these ones for Elvira came out before the distributors were shown the game.
Yeah.
So this came from somebody, I believe it was somebody hacking around on the website trying to guess the URL of the page that Stern were going to put up, and found some pictures there, and that's where they came from.
Right.
But to me, they were. I didn't want to run them because I didn't think. Well, I thought they were effectively stolen property because Stern didn't want them out there. They given the choice, Stern would not want them out there. They would ask and did ask people to take them down. So,
based on the response,
although we don't always follow Stern's wishes, if it's somebody else's property and they have expressed that they don't wish it to be used, I don't think you're on very steady ground in publishing it.
Right. At this point, I'm not sure whether Stern wouldn't want them to be published, because it's starting to look more and more like with every game we get this sort of leaked images up front. Everybody starts talking about it. You get the hype, and probably it's exactly what Stern wants actually to happen. But for the record, they need to tell people, "Oh, you have to take them down." But they still get the buzz that they are probably looking for.
Well, they can only do that so many times before it gets old and everybody gets wise to what they're up to. So they can probably do that for 2 or 3 games at most. We'll see whether it happens for the next game as well.
Right. Okay. So now about the game, this is not a cornerstone title, more as a studio type of title, which has similar to the Batman 66 model, a premium model, a limited edition, and a signature edition present, of which the signature edition is the most expensive one, reportedly being sold for in between $15,000 and $20,000 US. So
yeah, well,
that's an expensive signature, I think, because
it is. And it's pretty much all you get with that, because the playfield is exactly the same on all 3 models.
Exactly.
The only difference really is in the trim, and the fact that with the signature one you get a signed card on the playfield,
on the apron.
from Elvira, and a little patch of red material that's supposedly from her sofa or chaise lounge or whatever it is you would describe it as.
I guess
although I can't imagine
iconic sofa.
I can't imagine that she's only got one of them. So
not sure about that, but
this is going to be the end of her appearing on it.
Well, I think the sofa is actually already donated to some sort of Hollywood museum or a museum somewhere near Hollywood or LA. But I think I read somewhere that the sofa was, I'm not sure, pardon my English, I'm not a native English speaker, but it was completely
upholstered, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Recovered.
Yeah, and which would so in that sense it would make it possible for them to cut up the old fabric used on the sofa, and because it's also included in the limited edition of one of her books. Which is a photo book that I bought a couple of years ago. So it's not the first time that they offer this fabric as a part of a sort of limited edition type of thing. My guess is they have a ton of fabric laying around and they need to get rid of it.
Yes, and you don't know how many times it's been recovered or reupholstered in the past either. So it may not be the only one, but yes, it's one of the key benefits of the signature edition, that and the card. I think there are other differences as far as the body armor of the game goes. You get an extra level and you get much you get the kind of glossy embossed side decals that you got with the Batman 66 super limited edition. But we haven't seen those yet. Or got to get our hands on them, so we don't know quite how embossed they are.
Right.
But it's I'm not going to say it's a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. But it's a limited edition. No, it's a super limited edition with only 50 of them being made, as opposed to I think 500 of the regular limited edition.
Yeah. So
and the premium unlimited, but as we say, the gameplay is identical on all three models.
Right. Similar to the Batman 66 model as well, I suppose. Which is actually becoming and also with Beetle. So I guess generically speaking, the non-cornerstone type games that Stern is putting out still might have 3 different models, but those are games that have on all models the same playfield and gameplay, while with the cornerstone titles you actually get 2 different playfields, one on the Pro and then there's the Premium and the LE models, which also have the same playfield. So
so the promotion of the game now starts in earnest, and Elvira herself, Cassandra Peterson, will be promoting the game. She'll be at Pinball Expo in Wheeling in October, in the middle of October.
Right.
She'll be there on the Friday and the Saturday, and she'll be there at 7 p.m. on the Friday for I think it's the official launch of Elvira's House of Horrors.
Right.
Where they're having a separate launch party in the Botanic Garden Ballroom at the West Inn in Wheeling, and actually that's running in parallel with another Stern seminar in the seminar hall. So you have to pick and choose which one of those you want to go to.
Right. Well,
I think Dwight is doing his Family Feud thing in the main seminar hall.
Not sure I know what that is about, but
well, I think it's part. I don't know if it's part of the Sternorama. I guess it probably is. It's the Stern kind of takeover, which they're doing on the Friday, which was going to be on the Saturday, but
actually Stern is still quite present on the seminar program on Saturday as well, with Steve Ritchie doing a seminar, and then Keith Elwin also a seminar on Jurassic Park, followed by a seminar with the entire team behind Elvira's House of Horrors, including Cassandra Peterson, but it also features Dennis Nordman, Greg Ferris, Tom Capera, Lyman Sheet, Jerry Thompson, Chuck Ernst, Paul Chemnenkit, Lindsay Ferris Schupkegel, which is Greg Ferris' daughter, and as a special guest moderator, Jonathan Joosten of Pinball Magazine.
Nope, never heard of him.
No.
Oh well.
So, so there's quite a lot of Stern presence in the on the Saturday afternoon, I would say, as well. That's all at Pinball Expo. I look forward to this edition, and of course moderating this this seminar. It's a lot of people on stage, and there's only 1 hour, so it's going to be interesting to have everybody talk a little bit about their part in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to ask the team members any questions or raise any points with them, then Pinball Expo is the place to be. I will also get a blatant plug in for the fact that I will be there video recording all the seminars this year, and they will all be available on the Pinball News YouTube channel after the event. But
excellent.
If you actually want to be there and ask questions and interact with the team and maybe get Elvira to sign things, or any other members of the team to sign souvenirs, Pinball Expo is where you need to be on Friday and Saturday. And
I have it on good info that this might be very likely the only occasion that Dennis Norman is going to be talking about the game in public. Since he's working for Deeproot, obviously he will have to focus on the games that he will be manufacturing at Deeproot in future promotional appearances and so on. So any questions asked about Dennis's work on the game should be asked at Expo. And I am trying to get Dennis down for an interview as well, possibly during Pinball Expo. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, part of that, as I said, strange situation we've got at the moment where you can kind of talk about the game, but you can only talk about it for Pinball Expo weekend, and after that, everyone goes off and, Dennis can't talk about it anymore after that, probably, or only in a very limited way. Now he's, as you said, working at Deeproot on his own games for that company, and he wants to spend his time promoting that, or those. But I guess Stern and Greg can still go out there and promote. But I don't know if Cassandra's doing any more appearances for the game. I haven't heard of any.
No, and trust me, I'm trying.
Yes. So that's your opportunity.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's a pretty good wrap up of Stern's,
I guess
Stern and Whizbang, Elvira House of Horror.
I don't want to sound like a pessimist, but I guess the overall conclusion on this Elvira game is it's a great looking game, and basically now in Lyman we trust.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's a game is more than just code and art, and it's where the playfield shots look fun, but it needs to be a fun game overall, and I'm sure it'll get there in the end, even if it was only hinted at what was possible during the live stream.
Right.
So our third headline this month was also a Stern title.
Yes.
But a far from new one that's been around for a good number of years.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it's made it into our headlines in September 2019.
Yeah. Well, there's a good reason for that. People who have bought Ghostbusters pinball machines, which is the game that we're talking about, have been asking Stern for a code update for quite some time. And Stern even indicated for quite some time that they are working on a Ghostbusters update. But other games were prioritized, and you know how things go. So it took a while for Dwight Sullivan and his team to get around to it. But in this case, I guess you could say it must have been worth the wait. Or what's the expression?
No, I think you've said it quite right. It's a really comprehensive update in version 1.16. It's long awaited, but I think it was worth the wait, as you said, because it's come out and it's got huge. Well, I think you described it to me earlier as completely changing the way the game plays.
Yeah,
and
I've seen people.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, people are basically telling them they got a new game even though they already have it for 3 years in their house. So they basically they added music, they added modes, they added voice calls. The way existing modes are played changed, scoring changed, and it's supposed to be more balanced now. They tried to take out some of the cheat possibilities in the game.
Yeah, the unbalanced scoring opportunity, shall we say?
Yeah, and I've seen nothing but positive feedback from people who installed it on their game and were completely blown away with how much fun it is. And so that's a big compliment to Dwight Sullivan and his team. That's they came and they conquered, I guess. Trying to find
they came and they kicked ass.
Yeah, absolutely.
They saw yes, the addition of the wizard modes, pre-wizard mode. And the wizard mode, the we are ready to believe you, and the are you a god?
Yeah.
Final wizard mode.
Right.
Really make it a complete game, I think, at last, along with their sort of trainer mode as well, which they put in.
Yeah.
Which is they call the god mode, which allows you to basically jump straight into the we are ready to believe you.
Yeah, which is the pre-wizard mode. Which is something similar to what we've seen on Safecracker, where you could play a different game if you win
Assault the Vault.
Yeah, Assault the Vault, multi-ball. You go straight to that, and I think there was another game that also has such a.
Twilight Zone had a cheat mode for getting straight into Lost in the Zone, so you could just play that finale mode as well, which is a good training mode for people who will, or for those people who will never get to the final mode. Then either the game set up really hard, or their skill level's not enough, or it's just for guests. They just want to see what everything the game's got to offer when you complete it, rather than having to go through the whole process. And there it is. Do the either turn it on or press the flipper button code, and you're straight into it.
Right. Okay.
Which is it's a nice option to have. It's not something people are going to use who own the game, I don't think, other than just as a novelty. But it gives them the opportunity to see what they're aiming for.
Right. So no, it's. I think Stern really delivered on this code update, and so we have to applaud them for that. For still catering to a 3-year-old game, basically. And immediately, of course, there are rumors that there might be a Vault edition coming up now that the game improved so much. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We'll see.
It's interesting that code took a long time, and obviously they have a lot of other responsibilities and pressures on their time at Stern to produce code for new games. But also that was something which was cited, going back to our previous stories, cited about a reason that Elvira game didn't come out earlier. They said the game was basically done hardware-wise, but they hadn't assigned anybody to do the software on it. Yeah. And that was
Well,
that was 2 years ago.
I guess Lyman was assigned to it, but Lyman was working on Batman Code for quite a while, and other games that he was involved in. So,
So it's the pressure that the software guys are under these days with so many different titles. No, not just new releases, but also going back and making changes to pre-existing games.
Right. So, kudos to Dwight and his team on delivering this. This actually made a lot of people happy. So if you own a Ghostbusters games, make sure you get the update, and you'll be experiencing a completely new game.
Yeah, it should be good for those people who are operating the game as well. Once people know there's new software out there, then they'll want to replay it if they thought they were familiar with it and maybe got bored with the old software. On location, they can go and find a game that's got the new stuff and play a whole new game.
Yeah, the only thing it doesn't fix is the flipper gap, but oh well.
There are other ways of doing that.
Right. So, one other thing I noticed with Stern last month, we had Jack Warnieri commenting in on or making a statement about playfield issues with clear code not being completely hardened out or whatever you call it, causing
pooling or chipping. And
yes, exactly. It appears that we know that Stern was having similar problems, and it appears that Stern at least looked into a solution in terms of adding a blank space around stand-up posts on the playfield where there is no artwork, so that the clear would attach better to the wood. There was a photo circulating on the internet where a Jurassic Park playfield was shown, where there were clearly blank areas around all the stand-up posts on the playfield, followed by a big black outline. And then the playfield art would continue. On the prototype of Elvira, this wasn't the case, but it might very well be the case on the production models if the clear code issues haven't been solved in the meantime. So I just figured I'd mention that. Not sure if you have any comments.
Yeah, but it does kind of verify what we were speculating last time, that maybe the issues are with the bonding of the clear to the artwork as much, and the artwork to the wood.
Right.
So those two joints effectively, but Stern presumably think that putting the clear coat directly onto the wood resolves that issue, or at least helps heavily in preventing and chipping.
Right.
Whether it helps chips, pooling, then I don't know.
Even if it chips, then there's no artwork damaged.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it could be filled in again fairly easily, you would think, with a little bit of clear super glue, thin super glue, like people have done with inserts in the past.
Right. Okay.
So yes, it could be done.
Right.
But it's interesting to see that, because I think when Jurassic Park first came out, it didn't have that. Those clear areas around the posts, and the current version or the production version does, as you said. So that's something which they've obviously changed.
Yeah, and then one last thing related to Stern Pinball, a project that Jack Danger has been sort of involved in, together with a guy from Finland whose name is currently escaping me. Let me try and look that up. Can't access my email right now. Sorry. So this guy from Finland worked on a project where you could actually play a Batman 66 pinball machine online. In the sense that you would actually be playing a real pinball machine online. You're not playing a virtual game, but no, you're actually playing a real game online, and you're flipping with the flippers with your keyboard. And they made that work with cameras and everything that you need. So the game is streamed live, and you're looking at it. And I'm still wondering how if there is much of a delay causing you not to be accurate.
That would be the first thing I thought of. You know, what is the lag between you pressing the button and the flippers flipping? And obviously you wouldn't be able to nudge it yourself.
Well, you can nudge your keyboard all you want, but it won't tilt.
Yeah. Well, it may have, you know, the spacebar might be attached to some kind of solenoid or motor or something, which does actually shake the game. But it would clearly only be one person at a time who would be able to play the game. You know, it's although it's accessible and viewable by everyone.
Right.
Somehow it's going to have to lock the game out, so one person at a time is actually in control of it.
Yeah, but they are running a tournament on it, so if you feel like it, go give it a try. It should not be that difficult to locate online where to find that. And my guess is you can win cool prizes.
Oh, let's hope so. And talking with one more thing, which we were talking about Jurassic Park a little earlier. New version of the game code came out this month in September. Version 0.88 for Jurassic Park, which was actually a big update. I mean, it's still a new game, so there's a lot of changes going on, and I think the changes which have taken place with this new version are quite substantial. There's been lots of new voice calls, display effects, bug fixes, and adjustments to features as well, and the way that they work and the scores that they give. So that game is still developing as well.
Right.
So if you haven't upgraded your Jurassic Park to 0.88, then get to it, because it's definitely a worthwhile update.
Right. And speaking of code updates, that's a nice bridge to code updates from other companies. In this case, Jersey Jack Pinball comes to mind, who released a new code update for Dialed In, and as well as the current Willy Wonka game, which is still on the line.
Yeah, the dialed-in game did some models did, or some machines did have a problem with the phone screen going blank or black during the game, and basically losing the video signal. It looks like the version 1.73, which they've just brought out, has fixed that. As far as I've seen, everybody who had that problem hasn't reported seeing it recur, so that's good. They also did a little tweak to the order in which the game does a ball search when it loses track of where the ball is on the playfield. So it does check the QED guy and Betty diverters as well first, rather than leaving those to the end. So those are the key sticking points where a game might or a ball might get hung up in the game. So that should speed up the gameplay, which is good.
Right.
Willy Wonka 1.14, latest version, a few bug fixes, and also does a few mechanical changes, mainly with regard to diverter timing, to try and stop instances where the ball will fly around, moving really fast, and diverter wouldn't be able to get there in time to send it to where it's meant to go. But that's hopefully being improved now with the new version for Willy Wonka, which, as you say, is currently on the line.
Right. So, moving on to Spooky Pinball.
Yeah, Spooky Pinball. Oh, actually, should probably just mention, before we leave Jersey Jack completely, although there isn't a new code yet for Pirates of the Caribbean, that is still stuck on, I'll say stuck, it's just shy of a production version at 0.99, where it's been since April, but Jersey Jack Pinball did confirm that there is an update coming, but they couldn't say exactly when it is. Likewise, there was no further statement on the clear coat issue, as we were saying earlier.
Right.
But yes, on to Spooky Pinball. Yes, sorry, let me stop interrupting you.
Actually, I was going to let you start talking about the passing of Sid Haig. Well, you know more about that than I do. So.
Yeah, Sid was a well-known actor, film producer, a musician, and appeared in lots of movies, in fact. But was in the pinball context was Captain Spaulding in the Rob Zombie films, and so was instrumental in making the Rob Zombie Spook Show International game, doing lots of call-outs for that game, and was very supportive of the whole project and worked closely with the Spooky Pinball team on that. And his passing was announced, I think, just about a week ago, which was very sad, obviously. A very well respected and regarded multi-talented guy. So sad that he's no longer with us. But his work obviously lives on, both in his music and films and in the Rob Zombie game.
Right. So, needless to say that Spooky Pinball responded to this, and they were what's the best word? Sorry to hear about his passing, and obviously they had a great relationship with Sid. So, condolences to Spooky Pinball for this loss, and also to Sid Haig's family and so on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And furthermore, on the Spooky Pinball news, they are currently still building Alice Cooper Nightmare Castle, limited to 500 units. And as they announced earlier, they expect to finish that production by the end of December. There are still a few open spots, so if you're interested in a Alice Cooper Nightmare Castle pinball machine and you don't want to wait long, then this is probably your chance to get one.
Yeah, there aren't a huge number out there with a limited run of 500, but I have to say that everybody who's played one that I've spoken to has been very impressed by the game, and I think having played it, it's led to quite a lot of orders for the game, certainly in the UK. After its appearance at the UK Pinfest show, then I think there were several people who bought the game on the basis off the back of that, having had a chance to play it, and were thoroughly impressed. So but it is limited to 500. So no matter how impressed you are, if there are no more available, then you'll be kicking yourself. So get out there and find one and play it and see what you think.
Right. So I'm trying to see where we should be. Sort of related
music.
To
I'll leave this one to you.
Well,
you're the music guy.
I guess this was announced already last month. Scott Danesi did release the remastered version of his Total Nuclear Annihilation soundtrack album, I guess you can call it, which includes a bonus track called Scarlet, which is not in the game, although I guess it's up to Scott whether to decide if he wants to do a code update, and he might actually bring that song into the game, which wouldn't matter to me in the sense that I don't get further than three different tunes in the game because I'm not that good of a player. So I still have to listen to the soundtrack to listen what else is in the game. On this new remastered version, Scott brought back the original intro track to the game, the tune with the high beep, where he actually I think he lowered that specific beep with an octave on the original soundtrack. But as people complained about it and they really wanted that beat back, he listened to them and brought it back. So if you're curious about that, the album is available on Spotify and all sorts of streaming services. So just search for Total Nuclear Annihilation by Scott Danesi, and you'll find it there.
Great. Okay, so let's carry on with companies who are producing pinball games right now, rather than ones which are upcoming, and move on to American Pinball, who have been busy. You know, it's by the time you're listening to this, it will be October, and their current game is, of course, Oktoberfest, which is, of course, not. I think the actual Oktoberfest isn't just about October; it's about September and October.
Right.
It's a long event, and but they've been taking advantage of the current Oktoberfest celebrations in order to promote their games, haven't they, Jonathan?
Yes, they have. Didn't keep track of all of them, but obviously it makes sense. They did showcase a couple of new locations where the game is available to play. And there are Oktoberfest events where the game is promoted, like you said. And one of the shows that they will be attending the upcoming month is the Global Gaming Expo in Las Vegas. And that is held from October 15 to 17. Which is interesting because I'm not sure how many pinball companies will actually be representing pinball at this Global Gaming Expo, because I think it's more computer game focused, I'd say. But haven't been there yet.
That's right up just before Expo, isn't it? So that'll be going. That'll be the last day of that. Will be, well, in fact, Expo starts on the 16th, I think. So the 15th to the 17th in Las Vegas. So they're going to be doing that, and of course, I guess they'll be rushing over to Wheeling straight afterwards.
Right, and speaking of Pinball Expo, there it is again. American Pinball will be doing a seminar. They are, according to the latest seminar program that I have in front of me, they are scheduled to do a seminar on the Thursday at 6:30. Interestingly, that will be a seminar with speakers Josh Kugler and Joe Schober. But Joe Balser, the playfield designer and operations manager of American Pinball, is not listed as a speaker. I'm not sure whether that's an error, because I think he was listed earlier to speak as well, or whether he has other obligations, I don't know. But I just noticed that, and I thought it was interesting to notice. To mention,
I don't think American will be launching a new game at Expo, will they?
No. Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. They might not be launching a new game at Expo, but they might be launching a game still this year. I've been trying on behalf of the Dutch Pinball Open Expo, which is held November 9 and 10. In Zwolle in the Netherlands, to get Joe Balser in particular, or a staff from American Pinball to represent the company, to come over as a special guest to the event, do some seminars and so on. And I was told that due to the game number 3 priorities and release, nobody was available to attend the event. So take from that what you think that you can take, but it looks like early November or mid-November or end of November, we might be looking at a third release from American Pinball.
Yeah, I wonder if that would maybe coincide with something like the Joosten Arcade Expo,
right?
Because that will be in November,
right?
And I think they've certainly stated, American have stated their desire to at least have one game release per year,
right?
And given how Expo has been the sort of launch pad for their first 2 games, it's understandable that they don't want to do it this year with all the Elvira stuff going on there. So a secondary event or a latter event will give them a better launch pad and more time to get themselves ready for the launch of game number 3,
right?
Which I think we're all interested in exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah,
because we haven't had any leaks, really, have we, on that one?
No, we do have some assumptions, which we discussed in earlier podcasts, whether it could either be Robin Hood or Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Curious to see if it will be either one of these two or maybe something completely different.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, but we're not going to find out what that is, I don't think, in this coming month anyway. So look out for that in November. But I mentioned about
the Joosten Arcade Expo.
Exactly, which is going to be, if not a launch pad, then maybe a sneak peek at exactly what another pinball company, Deep Root Pinball, have been working on. They said that they were going to be presenting several of their RAZA, that's the Retro Atomic Zombie Adventureland games, and they will be revealing them at the Houston Arcade Expo in November.
Yeah.
Since then, there's been a little bit of backpedaling on it, but they will still be there. But they will be presenting two, I think they said, two of the early prototype RAZA games. And by early prototype, they mean that they will not have won't be the final design, playfield design, it won't be the final art, and it won't be the final code.
Right. And well, it's difficult to code a game if the playfield isn't done.
Well, you think so? Oh, yeah. And this is not a launch. This is kind of like a concept preview, shall we say, of what it is they're working on.
Right.
So that they will only have a minimal presence at the show. They said just in order to collect user data, which I guess means how the game stands up to being played or being flipped for 3 days in a row.
Right.
But the game itself won't be launched until early next year. That's the current timescale on that game. But there was Jeff from This Week in Pinball had an interesting interview with Deep Root's head, Robert Muller.
Right.
He said, carried on about their plans for the Houston Arcade Expo, and what they're going to show and how their design systems, I should say, will be totally different from anything anybody else has ever done. They're different types of technology they're bringing to the game as far as live rendering and pre-rendered and live action, I think is a term that they use. So exactly what that means, we won't really get to see until, well, maybe not until Houston in November.
Right.
But it was a very interesting interview from Jeff.
Yeah.
And Robert. So congratulations to them.
Well, it's certainly interesting to see. At one point, Deep Root is certainly differentiating themselves from other pinball companies, as they tend to trash the other companies far more than I've seen other companies do in the past, and still not having any product to show for it. But other than that,
obviously makes it easier to trash other companies who haven't got anything that they can criticise you for. But he was certainly Robert was certainly picking up on the playfield issues that other companies have had, and was very, very vocal, or in written terms vocal, about how Deep Root's pinball playfields are going to be, not going to suffer from any of these problems. Are going to have a 10-year warranty on any playfield damage, including dimpling, which kind of suggests that they might be using a different technology rather than wood for their playfields.
Stone.
But stone. I know that when Antonio from Quetzal Pinball was looking at finishing the Captain Nemo games, he was looking at different playfield services, but couldn't find one on which the ball rolled in the way in which he wanted, which didn't behave significantly different to the way the ball rolls on wood and the spin and the grip that it gets. So in the end, he did end up going back to a wooden surface, but maybe with a whole new system they'll have a different feel.
Well, Barry experimented with that in the past as well. I do remember seeing a speakeasy playfield, which was basically completely plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned out to be a nightmare in production, as it was very difficult to get the screws in
that's
there.
Right.
And so that didn't. While it looked great, and it supposedly would always look great, it did have its issues, so to speak, when it comes to production. And
absolutely, but to be fair, that they were trying to use a manufacturing method based around a wooden playfield to build a game with a plastic playfield using the same tools. If you design the game in the first place not to use wood but to be plastic, then you can do a lot of different things with it.
That's true, I guess.
Just look at what Multimorphic and Jerry's done with the P3 with a plastic playfield.
Right.
So that's shown it can be done.
And you still have to wonder. Yes, people always or tend to say that they like how a ball rolls on wood, but with all these clear-coated wooden playfields, technically the ball is rolling on the clear coat and not on the wood.
Yeah, and people kind of say that they like a mirror finish clear coat. In which case, you say there's no. In that case, you're not even picking up any of the grain of the wood and getting any purchase of the ball exactly. On that. So it might as well be a plastic playfield.
Yeah, or a stone one, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it's slate. Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing from. A couple of things from Deep Root, but there was some other news as well, which I wasn't expecting. I don't know whether you were with.
No, I wasn't expecting it either, and I was even put off on slightly on the wrong foot, I guess. We have to congratulate Barry Osler for getting married.
Yes, congratulations to Barry. Yeah. That came out of left field as far as we could see.
Well, I wasn't really paying that much attention to Barry, and interestingly, the pictures of the wedding showed up on my Facebook timeline, and they were posted by someone in attendance of the wedding, and it basically said something like, someone got married, guess who? Something like that in that line of order. Obviously, it was Barry Osler, and I guess there were like a dozen photos, but it wasn't until the last two pictures that I actually got to see the bride, because prior to that I was almost under the assumption that Barry was married to a man, because that man was appearing in all those pictures, and completely dressed up for the wedding. So, which is, if that would have been the case, it's completely fine with me. But eventually turned out to be not the case. Although it had me wondering for a second, like, really? I didn't know that. But okay. But that was quite funny. But I'm very happy for Barry that he married again. Obviously, Barry's a widow, for those who don't know, and I'm happy to see that he found a new love in his life.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to him from, I'm sure, all of us in the pinball community. I was a little taken aback initially because it was only probably, I don't know, a week or so earlier that I got a message from Barry saying my Facebook account's been hacked. Don't click on any links you may have been sent from me, or believe any of the posts that might be posted under my name.
Huh.
And then lo and behold, pictures of him being married. But the fact there were pictures, I guess, means it's it took away any doubts I had. So so congratulations to Barry and Kathy.
Yeah, and
on their wedding.
At the wedding, several of Barry's colleagues from Deep Root were present. I do recall seeing John Papaduic being there and Stephen Bowden, possibly more, but I didn't recognize everybody, I guess. And I don't have them in front of me right now, so I can't check. So
yeah, well, it was their day, so congratulations to them. And we'll look forward to seeing them. I don't know whether they'll both be at Expo, but I'm sure Barry will be there.
I'm not sure whether
we'll find out whether or not.
Obviously, he moved, but he's no longer living near Chicago. But we'll see.
I'm sure he'll be there.
There is no Deep Root seminar scheduled, as far as I could see, at Expo. So
no, I don't think so. No, they're keeping their powder dry until Joosten, but that won't, as we said before, that won't be the launch of any of their games. But maybe Texas next year will be, or maybe
a year
maybe
after.
later, maybe Midwest.
That's only a week later. So
okay,
okay, moving on.
Yep. So another company which, not a company, I guess, so far, because they haven't produced any games, and I don't know whether they've sold anything yet, but Haggis Pinball, who are working on their Celts game. And now that was, when was that game? Was that going to be shown at Expo, Jonathan?
Yes.
Do you remember?
It was. Well, actually, it was supposed to be shown at the Brisbane Masters already, which was in August, I think. They were going to show it there, and then they reserved already a container to ship like a dozen games to Pinball Expo. And I guess the last thing I saw about it is that it's now scheduled for November. So I guess that sort of indicates that we might not be seeing it at Expo.
That would be a shame. Although it's, I think it's been delayed before, but I was certainly looking forward to seeing what progress they've made on developing Celts. Whether we'll see anything or not, don't know. I don't think there's a seminar scheduled at Expo for that game.
No, didn't see one.
No. So no. Well, maybe nothing. Maybe that'll be at Joosten as well. Who knows?
I'm not even sure whether they will be at Joosten, but best of luck with them, to them. But it is interesting to see that there is so much delay for basically a single level playfield with no ramps. So you might wonder, like, okay, how difficult is it going to be? I mean, I can see that adding ramps and working up in height on a playfield might make it more difficult. But apparently, even if you don't have those, then it's still hard, I guess, to design a pinball machine and get it into production.
Well, it seems like it's a passion project, really, and it's not a full-time. Well, there's no income coming from it at the moment. There's no sales, so I'm sure it's something that's being done in spare time and documented online. So I'm sure if you want to find out more, you can go to the Haggis Pinball YouTube channel and see what their latest update there is. But I'm not going to say the classic phrase that everybody says about how it is not that easy to make a pinball, as people think. But it's real life can intervene as well in some of these things, especially when it's just you or a couple of you working on a project. If something happens in real life and you're unable to devote the amount of time you thought you were going to it, then delays will appear. And but they haven't promised anything so far. So
they promised a couple of reveals, but other than that, they didn't sell any games, and they don't owe anybody any money or something like that. So.
So talking of maybe companies who do owe people money, or a company.
Right. My guess is you're going to Dutch Pinball.
Good guess, yeah. Let's go to that, because I'm sure you've got some information about what's been going on with with Barry's plans to deal with the parts that he's got from ARA, and how production is or plans for production are going in the wherever all these parts have ended up.
Right. Okay. Well, to start off with the good news, the remaining parts that were still stored at ARA during their summer holiday break have been picked up by Barry, and first they've been put in a temporary storage, and then a few days later he got the keys to his new facility. And since then he has been moving parts in there, organizing things, and working towards setting up production. I guess. Interestingly, I did not speak to Barry the past month, although Barry reached out to me asking me like what was up, instead of me doing that to him, which is the usual routine, I'd say. But
is there any information on where this facility is? Or is that not public knowledge?
I'm not sure whether it's public knowledge, but it's apparently he's. I think he's living maybe 2-3 blocks away from it. To put it in American phrases, so it's rather close to his home, which is probably best. I mean, the ARA facility was a 1.5 hour drive away for Barry, so that wasn't very convenient. And now it's basically walking distance, I would say. So that's that's a good thing. I don't know whether production actually already started. Haven't seen the signs of that. But there was an interesting newsletter published. I have to do this from the top of my head since my computer crashed in the meantime, and I turned it off. So. But in the newsletter, in short, early achievers who felt left out when the recent the sale of the existing games that were stored at ARA that were sold through CoinTaker, some early achievers felt left out because they felt like they would have wanted to be prioritized, in the sense that they would have wanted to be able to buy such a game for $12,500, so that they basically would have a game ready to play and one on order. But by the time the one on order would get built, they could either decide to sell it or do whatever, something else with it. Now, so Barry received multiple requests, which made him decide to send out a newsletter offering to early achievers, which are the people who already prepaid for a game and are basically owed a game at this point, that they could buy a $12,500 game, which would then be one of the first games to be manufactured in the new facility and shipped to them, and then they can still choose what to do with the original order, the original game that they have on order. So I haven't watched whether there were any comments or how the response was to that, but since this was sort of initiated by some of the people who are actually owed a game, I guess, okay, if they feel like buying such a game, sure, okay, why not? I'm on the list of getting a game as well, but I didn't feel like I should buy another game to get going, so I'll just wait in line until my number is up, and hopefully I will get there soon.
But one of the key things I think about the deal was that if you did pay, the $12,500 now, or when the game is ready, not prepay, you pay it when it's built, okay, and you're one of the first ones to get one of the new games. Right. And of course, by paying that money, you give working capital to Dutch Pinball to carry on and build all the other games,
right?
Or help do that. Anyway, when your early achiever model, which you would have got eventually, is ready, you will then have the option to get a full refund as well, and you didn't have to take the delivery of the game and then try and sell it to someone. You could just say, I don't want the game, sell it, I'll take my money back, please.
Yeah.
At that point.
But at that point, you could also.
If it gets to that point, it means that game, that 12,500 you put out at the start, would be refunded. So you still have a game, and that wouldn't have cost you any more than your initial payment.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So I guess that's the news on Dutch Pinball. I do hope they get into production really quickly.
I think everybody does.
Yeah, and I guess it's up to Barry to gather a team of people who can assemble these games, and hopefully he will be able to get started on building them soon.
Yeah, and we'll of course keep you updated with all his progress, and who knows, we might even get him back on for another interview before too long. He can tell you all about it himself.
Sure. Oh, well, that would be fun. So maybe we could do something like that with our podcast for next month. We'll see. Depends on what the news is of the coming month.
Yeah.
Although my guess is
it's going to be a busy time, I think, for us, isn't it? The coming month.
Yeah. Well, it's Pinball Expo month, so yes, that's going to be a busy month. I look forward to going there, although I won't be there the entire time, unlike previous times. But I do have a conflicting dance music event in Amsterdam, and but I was able to I figured like, okay, I could do 2 days of this event and then hop on a plane, go to Expo, and arrive Friday late in the evening, and still be part of Expo for at least another 24 to 36 hours. And see a lot of people and so on. So
yeah, there's a lot of show. So even a couple of days gets you great value.
I hope so.
So I will be there, of course, for the entire duration, including a couple of days before and a good few days afterwards as well. After which I shall be downtown in Chicago with my good friend Dan, and I think another friend of ours, Mike's joining us this time, and we'll be touring the many arcades and barcades in Chicago and checking out what they have to offer.
Well, I will be hanging around until Tuesday, so I might actually catch up with you on Monday or something like that.
Absolutely.
If you don't want, if you would like me to,
we will. We'll arrange that, I'm sure, in due course. It'll happen, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now, speaking of Pinball Expo, this is the 35th edition, making it. It was already the longest-running pinball show on an annual basis, and basically the sort of the mother of all pinball shows, you could call it. And I actually I rang Rob Burke and asked him why everybody should be attending Expo. So let's take a listen to what Rob had to say.
On the and all the unusual things we were offering this year. Did you happen to see that yet?
I saw something about some sort of Halloween kind of hunt or something.
Well, that was one thing, but there's also one called Fun with Pinball. There was Pin Quest. There was Pachinko Fever. And of course, Elvira.
Right. Seminars as usual.
A little bit longer hours. And there's going to be, Stern's having their Sternorama this year on Friday.
Right.
And then I guess the news is Saturday. Marco has got a party going on. They're calling it a private party, but it's starting at 10 p.m. It's going to run all night. There'll be tickets that get offered at the expo to get into it. I believe on Marco's personal website, there's more information about their party for Saturday night.
Any special activities because it's the 35th edition?
Well, I'm bringing in a load of games from Spain. Never before seen in America, so that would be interesting. Agus Pinball is coming in from Australia, which I think will be their first time coming.
Right.
Dino Gaspari is coming as a vendor from Canada. He'll be there for the first time. Your buddy Giacomo is coming as a vendor from London, England.
From Pinball Creative.
No, I tell you one thing that I'm kind of excited about is on Saturday at 6 p.m. we're going to have this talk with all the Bally artists and designers.
Right.
So the idea is almost like a fireside chat in a way. So I think it'd be kind of fun to have all these Ballyites all together in one room.
Right.
Just to share some special times together. The schedule is so full again. It just, you can hardly move.
Yeah.
And, as you see, we have the Hall of Fame on Thursday night. You just couldn't find the space to put it any other place. And then I'll be speaking about kind of like a slide presentation or a PowerPoint presentation of some highlights of the first 34 years.
Right. Yeah.
And then, Jonathan, we're having that pinball auction Saturday. I'm not sure if you caught that or not.
I did see that. I was wondering, so are you auctioning off games of yourself, or is a third-party company doing that? Or?
Yeah, it'll be a third-party company. They'll have about 50 games there. And the auction is going to start Saturday morning at 10 a.m., but it's going to be an online auction.
Okay.
So the games will be, on the floor, and people can play them, throughout the whole week of Expo. But then I think starting at 6 o'clock is when they start closing the auction down. So if no one places a bid, then I believe it's going to be every 2 minutes. It'll end at 6 o'clock, and if no one places a bid, then 6:02, the next machine will be up for bid.
Right.
And they keep going back and forth until the bidding stops on that for 2 minutes, and then the third one goes. So
right.
It'll probably go till, I'm guessing, 9 o'clock or so.
Okay. So, obviously that's simultaneously with seminars in another room, I assume.
Right, but let's face it, as long as you got your phone, you can place your bid just right off your phone.
Right. So you don't have to be present in the room.
Correct.
Okay, that could be interesting. So speaking of games at Expo, last year you already expanded quite a bit on the amount of games, the number of games present at the show. How will that be this year?
Well, my goal is to hit 500. Time will tell, but I'm bringing over 100 games myself, so I just want it to be a very special event for everybody. It's ambitious, but we got to shoot high. But we have a lot of people making commitments, so as long as they come through, we should be in good shape.
Right. Okay. So, any comments about the vendor hall?
It's going to be packed again. We're just about sold out. So, if anyone were to want to get in at this point in time, we couldn't even get them in. Yeah, it's the first time we've sold out in the vendor hall. It's the first time we sold out at the hotel. So anyone that wants to come to the show, they got to go to an alternate hotel.
Okay.
Because of the concern of overflow of parking needs, we're actually have been arrangements to have a parking facility. It's very close to the hotel, and they'll have shuttles back and forth for any overflow of parking. And also something new we do this year is, typically we have one design of shirt that we offer for attendees. We sell.
Right.
This year we got 3 different designs.
Okay. Are these designs made by anybody that we might know from the pinball industry?
Yeah. You got Chris Franke.
Yeah.
And then John Yossi is creating a design for us. And another fellow out of Pennsylvania, Flyland Designs. So he's created a very, very unique and very colorful design. So we're going to have all 3 designs available at the show. So it should be a lot of fun.
Okay, interesting. So it's
now Mirko, our friends Mirko from Germany will not be coming to the show, but I've made arrangements for them that they're going to ship their playfields to the show, and my staff will be selling them at the show.
Okay.
We'll also be selling playfield glass at the show, and we'll also be selling playfield dollies. Or not playfield, but pinball dollies.
Okay, so interesting. So you sort of have your own space in the vendor hall, I guess?
Exactly. I mean, I did last year too, but this year it's more to sell supplies from Mirko and some other general supplies for the pinball community.
Right. Okay. Well.
And then, Jonathan, we're getting a lot of support from the local media, so we're gonna both radio and TV will be covering the expo. So that'll be a first for us as well, expanded coverage.
Right. So you might actually have a lot of locals pulling in as well.
Well, that's what I'm really, really planning on. So anyone who's going to be a vendor there is going to see a lot of people inside there. It's going to be really wall-to-wall people.
Right. Okay. Cool. So obviously for you, well, this is 35 or 34 years in the making, so to speak. How excited are you? Aside from exhausted from all the organizing.
Yeah, I think it won't really hit me until the first day of the hall opens up, because you can't concentrate on the end result until you do all the initial work needed to put this thing together. But it's getting closer and closer. So I know my wife's under a lot of stress because she's been doing a lot of work to make it perfect for everybody, and to make it an event that they'll leave saying that this was a very special time. Yeah, everything I've done is over the top this year. It's just about every possible thing we could do and ask for. It's all coming together.
Well, so straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, Rob Berg from Pinball Expo on an event that you absolutely cannot afford to miss. So make sure that you head out to Wheeling, Illinois, October 16th till the 20th.
And it's funny enough you should mention that, because my phone is ringing right now, and it's somebody who's been to every single one of those 34 so far, and will be at the 35th Expo. It's our good friend Gary.
Gary Stern.
I'm sure. Yes, Gary's been at every. Oh no, not Gary Stern. Gary Flower. Yes, Gary Flower. Yes, right there from the beginnings, the origins of the show, and I'm sure he's going to tell us all about. Tell us what it was like at the very early days of a Pinball Expo, and how the show has moved on since. What? He's kind of hung up.
What?
I was just about to. I was giving you a big build-up, and
he's so impatient. He does it every time.
Well, if you want to hear all the stories about the early days of Pinball Expo, you probably have to go to Pinball Expo and catch Gary there, and he will also be presenting some seminars, so you'll be able to catch him and ask him about that and everything else in pinball.
Right.
Because he I'm sure can tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. So one of the seminars that Gary will be moderating is actually a very interesting one, I think. Personally, I look forward to that.
I know which one you mean.
That's the Belly reunion seminar, which is being held on Saturday evening, currently scheduled at 6 p.m., although I would suggest with the Elvira seminar being prior to that they move it to 6:30 and move LTG to later in the evening, which is after that seminar. But it's a reunion of Belly Pinball from, well, with people like Margaret Hudson, Dennis Norman, Greg Ferris, Dave Christensen, Greg Meek. Tom Neiman is going to be there. So,
star cast.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the seminars that I'm really, really looking forward to.
I think more and more people are signing up for that almost on a daily basis. It started out as about 4 or 5 people, and it seems to have grown to more than a dozen people now, and with more expected.
Right. So, and with so many people on stage, you might need a little bit more time. And I'm sure they all have great stories to tell. At least that's what I hope, because that's the stuff we all want to hear about. So that's one of the seminars that I'm really looking forward to. Do you have any favorites on your agenda that you're like, oh, I really would like to see how that's going down, or...
You are absolutely putting me on the spot here, because I haven't looked at the seminar schedule for about 2 weeks now, since it all changed. But I think I'm going to have to plump for the Elvira one, because she's always such great value. Wherever she appears, she was marvelous when she was at Texas, and I'm sure she will be this time with. And this time she'll have the entire, the crew there from the game and the game itself. So, what's not to like about that? So I think that's going to be my must see. Plus, of course, got to be a shout out for LTG as well. The evening session, always good fun with, I think the suitably rowdy end to the day, which is always fun and a bit raucous, I'd say, rather than rowdy.
Yeah, interestingly. At the current seminar schedule, it's not scheduled at the end of the day, which you would expect.
I'm wondering whether this is going to change, because
I'm actually hoping it's going to change. First of all, because it's sort of traditional for LTG to close off the day, and second, it would allow the Elvira seminar and the Ballet seminar to run a little late, both, or give them a little bit more time, because with so many people on stage, an hour is probably not enough. That's
I did notice there were a couple of seminars there where I thought, really, is that all the time they've been given? I'm sure they will overrun, or if not, we'll have to continue out in the corridor or in a side room somewhere, because I can't imagine all the questions are going to be asked for all the people in the time allotted at the moment. So keep an eye on the schedule for the seminars, because I have a feeling things will be changing there and be a little bit fluid.
Right.
In the days and weeks leading up to it, and it'll be days, because it's not many weeks now.
Right.
So it's going to be fun no matter what happens.
Right. So then there is a little bit of news from Pinball Magazine. Now, I'm not sure if you heard of that magazine. It's a publication that's more like a book. And
yes, I may have heard of that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So they have been. They had an issue. The second issue that they published was the issue that focused on the career of Dennis Nordman. And Greg Freyers also chimed in. Cassandra Peterson had an interview in there, and lots of interesting stuff on the career of Dennis Nordman. That issue has been sold out for over 2 years now. There is slightly good news in the sense that, as I'm the editor of Pinball Magazine, in case people forgot about that, I am looking into doing a reprint of that issue. There is one catch. In order to do such a reprint, to make it economically feasible, so to speak, I will have to add additional advertisements. And I send out a mailing to potential advertisers, offering them the chance to advertise in this reprint for a very affordable, I think, affordable advertising rate, which is 2/3 of a normal ad in a regular print run of Pinball Magazine. Based on the fact that this print run will also be like half to 2/3 of a traditional print run. But for those who are missing Pinball Magazine number 2 in their collection, and there's quite a few people out there who have been requesting to reprint Pinball Magazine number 2, there is this in the works. So hopefully by, let's say, mid to end November, if all goes well, Pinball Magazine number 2 should be available again. Oh,
good news there then. And I think will there be any updates to any of the features in there?
The current
given changes in the past 2 years.
Well, it's interesting that you ask. The magazine itself will keep its original content, although some typos that have been spotted will be corrected. But as an editor, of course, let's say that I would do an interview with Cassandra Peterson right now. And replace the original interview, that might upset the people that bought the original print or magazine when it was out. So instead, the idea is to do the reprint and do I'm trying to work out whether I can do a supplement, a separate supplement with interviews with Dennis Nordman and Greg Freres and hopefully Cassandra Peterson as well on the newest Elvira game, but also have Dennis talk about his current work at Deeproot as far as he can and such. The problem right now is that everybody involved in the Elvira game at Stern has been told that they can't do any interviews on the game until after Pinball Expo. So I was hoping to have that supplement ready by Expo. Well, that will not be the case. So that will be at a later time. And but the idea is that once the supplement would be available, it's probably going to be a relatively cheap supplement to order. It will be in print, and for those ordering Pinball Magazine number 2 will automatically get that supplement with it as well. If that all happens, and if all these people are willing to contribute to such supplement. But I am working on something like that. So thank you for asking that and allowing me to bring that in.
No, it's important. Okay, I think I haven't got anything else to raise for this month. Have you?
I'm looking at a black screen, so I really couldn't be able to tell.
I guess that means we covered everything.
I think we did. Yes.
Well, okay. We talked about a number of shows, and we just put in a blatant plug. Quite a lot of these shows, especially the ones that are held at hotels, they often sell out their rooms very early on. I know the Texas show sells out incredibly quickly. It's in the same kind of speed at which Pinburg sells out. So you really need to keep an eye on when these shows are and get in early with your bookings if you want to be guaranteed a room in the facility itself. So I will plug and say check out the Pinball News Diary, which puts in all the shows that we know about and are told about. And at the moment, that's going all the way up to we're going to November next year.
Wow!
Yes. But we mentioned the UK Pinfest show, for instance. The dates for next year's show, that was August. The dates for next year's show are already in, and you can ring up and get the hotel booked now for that at the show rate. I know because I've done it. And like Southern Fried Game Room and Replay Effects, all that, all in there. Pintastic. Rocky Mountain, Ann Arbor shows, they're all there for next year. So check that out. And if you're going to those shows, make sure you get your bookings in nice and early. And if they're not there and you want, please feel free to drop me an email at editor@pinballnews.com and I will chase up the details for you and make sure they go on site as soon as possible.
Right. So,
and with that blatant plug, I think we can bring this podcast covering the exciting month of September 2019 to a close. Thank you to Jonathan for co-hosting today.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Martin, as well.
And we look forward to greeting you for next month when we look back at all the events that have taken place, and I'm sure there'll be lots of them, given and everything that's happening in October.
Right, and if you happen to be at Pinball Expo, we always appreciate it if you see us and you want to say hi, please come over and say hi.
Absolutely, and if you've got any suggestions for things we could do that we're not doing, or tell us the things that you like that we are doing, that's always helpful and good, useful feedback.
Right. So, and for those people wondering, is Gary Fowler actually real? Yes, he will be at Expo, and we'd love to point him out to you so you can ask him yourself all the questions you have been dying to ask him.
Absolutely. So, with that, we'll wrap up this podcast, and thank you very much for listening. And so, from myself, Martin Ayub, and from Jonathan Joosten of Pinball Magazine, that's him. We will wish you a very good bye.
Okay. Thanks and bye bye.